Okay, so I hope everybody had a good Hanukkah. About a year ago, we had started a book called A Philosophy of Mitzvot by Gershon Appel, Appel. And then we got started on a few other things, including the longer series on the Siddur. So I thought we might go back and pick a little bit of this up. I'm starting in chapter 2. We had just talked about the 6 commandments which are binding at all times, and you can go back and listen to that first episode about a year ago, about 10 minutes in length, and so forth. So once again, I hope everybody had a good Hanukkah, brought some additional light into this dark world, both figuratively and literally. And let's move on. So the quest for the meaning of mitzvot, the rabbinic tradition. Hikum and Mispatim. The biblical designation of the commandments as Hikum, statutes, and Mispatim, ordinances, is presumed by the rabbinic tradition to indicate a distinction between statutory laws divinely revealed to Israel and laws that commend themselves to reason and are universally recognized as just and righteous. This classification of mitzvot is already evident in the very first commandments given to Israel following the departure from Egypt, referring to Israel's sojourn at Marah on their way to Mount Sinai. Scripture states, there he made for them a statute, hok, and an ordinance, mishpat, Exodus 15:25. A more definitive characterization is given by the rabbis in the Talmud in their exposition of the verse, mine ordinances you shall do, and my statutes shall you keep, to walk therein. I am the Lord your God. Leviticus 18:4. Mine ordinances shall you do. These are things which, were they not written, it would be necessary to write them, such as the prohibition of idolatry, forbidden relations, murder, robbery, and blasphemy. My statutes shall you keep are things such as the prohibition against eating swine, the prohibition against wearing a mixture of wool and linen, the purification of the leper, the right of the scapegoat, etc. Lest you say that the latter are worthless observances, Scripture states, I am the Lord. I, the Lord, have decreed, and you are not permitted to criticize them. So then it goes on to talk about the distinction of some of the sages between the Hikum and the Mispatim, Judaism perceives the prime significance of the commandments to stem from their essentially synonymous character. And if you had to look that word up, it means God-given. It's not a very common word, and I had to look it up. This is to be seen from the statement from the rabbis, greater is the one who performs the mitzvah when he is commanded than the one who performs it, though he is not commanded. So let's move forward a couple of pages, and I want to talk about a couple of the great philosophers and sages and kind of what they believed. We're going to start off with Philo. The characterization of the mitzvot, thus generally outlined in Scripture and further delineated by the sages, was reflected subsequently in Jewish religious philosophy, consequent upon a continuing search for the meaning and the purpose of the mitzvot. So Philo is tagged with the allegorical method. This first of the Jewish philosophers to expand the meaning and the moral significance of the scriptural laws was Philo Judaeus of Alexandria. Following tradition, Philo divides the laws as between commands and prohibitions, and as between duties to God and duties to man. Just as an aside, that's Judaism believes the 2 tablets exactly mimic that last part where the duties to God are on the left of the first 5, and then the duties to man are on the right. The second 5, the interesting part, of course, is the 5th commandment, to honor father and mother. And I'll let you read up on that a little bit on your own to see how we believe that fits into duties to God. Back to the book. Apart from their intrinsic value and importance as divine ordinances, the biblical laws Philo believes have an intellectual and moral purpose. He therefore interprets many of the laws allegorically in accordance with his general assumption that biblical texts have both a literal meaning and an underlying symbolic meaning. Interestingly, there is a gospel, and I cannot remember the name of it. I think it's Thomas. Maybe it's the Gospel of Thomas, where Thomas kind of does the same thing, but goes strictly with the metaphorical meaning. So, for instance, when he goes over the commandment not to eat pork, he says, well, it's really not a commandment not to eat pork. It's a commandment not to act in a boorish or pig-like manner. Certainly interesting, but here Philo speaks against this as he insists, however, that irrespective of their allegorical meaning, the laws must literally be observed. Although the Sabbath, for example, is meant to teach us about the Creator and creation, we may not lose sight of the binding nature of the law. This is equally the case with other laws, such as relate to the festivals which are divinely ordained. Philo was evidently prompted by a desire to reveal Judaism to the world as possessing an ideal law capable of implanting the highest standard of virtue among the Jewish people. He therefore classifies the laws according to the cardinal virtues which they impart. These are first intellectual or contemplative virtues, which foster correct opinions concerning God and promote the service of God, and second, moral virtues such as justice and philanthropy, which he also characterizes as the virtue of humanity. Among the practical moral laws, he includes those which he regards as a divine discipline designed to teach moderation and self-restraint. The law of Moses, Philo maintained, is the ideal law sought after by the philosophers, since the laws of the Torah are in perfect accord with nature and inculcate the highest virtues upon which the ideal law must be based. The next sage is the Vilna Gaon, or the Vilna Gaon. I can't remember exactly which century he was in. I want to say about the 13th, but I could be wrong on that. But he was considered one of the great sages of the time, and wrote extensively. I've read several of his works, and he's quite profound, but I really enjoy his writings. Vilna Gaon was the first of the medieval Jewish philosophers to classify the mitzvot as rational, sikliot, and revealed shemiot laws. A distinction basically similar to the biblical designation of Hikum and Mispatim as understood by the rabbis. The rational laws are essentially ethical commandments recognized and approved by reason. Though the approval or disapproval of these laws is implanted in the mind, they are nonetheless part of the scriptural revelation, I said it right the first time, because reason would suggest only general principles. Revelation provided detailed instructions and practical guidance. The revealed laws are traditional commandments of the ritualistic and ceremonial nature imposed by divine command and made manifest to man solely through revelation. Sadia describes the revealed laws as consisting of acts which, from the standpoint of reason, would be optional, but which have been enjoined by law and thus demonstrate submissiveness to God. All of these commandments, rational and revealed alike, become intelligible when they are examined in the light of knowledge drawn from the three bases of our religion, namely Scripture, reason, and tradition. The revealed laws are not merely arbitrary, but have a rational basis, though the chief reason for the observance of these precepts is that they represent the will of God. Most of them can be shown to have some purpose, although the wisdom and the view that the Creator had in mind in decreeing some of these is beyond the grasp of men. Significantly, although he legitimates an allegorical interpretation when it is designed to bring Scripture into harmony with either reason or tradition. Sadia, as did Philo, pointedly takes note of the limits to be imposed upon the allegorical method relative to the mitzvot. While Sadia underscores the synonymous nature of the commandments, his characterization of a portion of them as rational, and his endeavor to ascertain a utilitarian basis, even for the revealed laws, would indicate a desire to impart them in an autonomous character as well, insofar as the mitzvot find their substantiation in reason, by which man is fully capable of apprehending ultimate truth. Sadia's distinction between rational and revealed laws was generally accepted, with some modifications, by succeeding Jewish philosophers, including Judah Halevi, Abraham ibn Ezra, and even Maimonides, who we will look at next. So what I've been taught throughout the years is that, if it makes sense, great. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make any difference. These are divinely given, and they have the purpose of being the blueprint of life, and helping us to do the will of our Creator. Jews certainly don't feel like we earn our way into heaven or earn the love of God. Rather, we do these things out of the love of God. And as I think I've pointed out in several previous programs, heaven is simply icing on the cake if it exists. Hope y'all have a great week. I'm not going to put a time frame on exactly when I will do these. Usually Sundays and Wednesdays are my better days for these. So you may see these come up on those days. I may pick another day, may skip a day. We'll just see how everything goes. But if you get a chance, we're just getting started in the book, go ahead and pick it up, and we'll talk about it some more. All right. Have a great week. Bye.